Mr. Trump, I work 2 jobs. I'm a certified nursing assistant at the hospital, and I clean offices at night. I work about 70 hours a week. Your administration eliminated overtime protections for millions of workers. My question is, what's your plan to help people like me who are working ourselves to death and still can't make ends meet? Trump leaned into his microphone, that familiar smirk on his face. Well, first of all, thank you for your service. Healthcare workers, we love them, don't we, folks? A smattering of applause. But, 70 hours, that's a lot. That's a lot. But here's the thing, and I'm going to be honest with you, very honest. Sometimes you have to work hard. Sometimes you have to really put in the effort. I built an empire working hard. Sometimes people want everything handed to them. Denise's face fell. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jasmine Crockett, seated on the panel, leaned forward. Mr. Trump, she asked a specific question about overtime protections. Your Labor Department under Secretary Aosta tried to eliminate overtime eligibility for 8 million workers. Can you address that directly? Trump's had swiveled toward her, and something shifted in his expression. The showman mask slipped, revealing the contempt beneath. You know what your problem is, Congresswoman? His voice had an edge now, sharp and mean. You and people like her. He gestured dismissively toward Denise, still standing with the microphone frozen. You think you deserve something just for showing up. You want overtime, work harder, get a better job. Stop whining about it. I built an empire from the ground up. I earned everything I have. I took risks. What have you people done except ask for handouts and complain? The room went dead silent. Crockett's voice cut through like a blade. You people. Her tone was so cold that several people in the front row actually shivered. Who exactly are you people, Mr. Trump? Trump realized too late that he'd stepped in it. His face re-eamed. I meant people who don't understand business. People who don't understand how the economy works. No. Crockett stood up slowly, deliberately. You meant workers. You meant that woman right there who works 70 hours a week and still struggles. You meant anyone who wasn't born into wealth. You just told someone working 2 jobs that she should work harder. You just told millions of Americans watching this that they're whiners for wanting fair pay. She stepped out from behind the table, walked to the center of the stage. You want to know what I've done? Her voice was level, but there was steel in it. I worked my way through law school. I represented workers who were cheated by employers. Employers like you. I got elected to Congress by people you just called whiners. And I'm here today because someone needs to face you with the truth. She turned to address the moderator, a local news anchor who looked like he wanted to crawl under his desk. Change of plans. We're not doing a typical town hall. Mr. Trump just revealed who he really is. And I think the people in this room, the working people, the you people he just dismissed, deserve to hear the whole truth. Trump jabbed a finger at her. This is ridiculous. I'm not going to stand here and be ambushed by what? Facts. By the people you've hurt. Crockett's voice rose slightly. Sit down, Mr. Trump. You called me here. You wanted to show how much you connect with working people. Let's see how that goes. She gestured to an aide who'd been standing off to the side. The aide wheeled in a cart stacked with binders and a laptop connected to projection screen behind them. You said you people want handouts. You said they should work harder. You said they're whiners. Crockett opened the first binder with deliberate slowness. Let's talk about what you've really done to working people. Let's talk about who's really been taking handouts. And let's talk about who the real con artist in this room is. Trump's face was mottled red. Now I don't have to listen to this. You do, actually. Crockett's smile was sharp as a knife because I brought guests. For people who have very specific questions for you. For people whose lives you've touched personally with your business practices and your policies. She looked at the side door, and unlike you, I brought receipts. The moderator tried weakly to regain control. Congresswoman Crockett, this isn't really the format we agreed to. The format changed when he called working people whiners who want handouts. She didn't even look at the moderator. Her eyes were locked on Trump. He wanted to connect with working people. Great. Let's connect. Let's hear from real people about their real experiences with Donald Trump. She clicked the remote. The screen behind them lit up with a simple title slide, "The Truth About You People." Trump sat down heavily in his chair, his jaw clenched. He knew he'd made a mistake, but his pride wouldn't let him leave. "Not yet." "Fine," he said. "Bring out your actors, your Democrat operatives. Let's see this ambush." Crockett smiled again, that same cold, dangerous smile. "Oh, Mr. Trump, they're not actors, and by the time we're done, you're going to wish this was just a rehearsed performance." She looked at the camera. "What you're about to see is what happens when a con man has to face his marks." Crockett walked to the screen, remote in hand. "Let's start with something simple. Promises versus reality. What you said versus what you did. Because I think the people in this room, the you people you just dismissed, deserve to know the truth." Click. A video clip began to play. It was Trump at a rally in Michigan 2016. The crowd was massive, waving signs, chanting, "I will be the greatest jobs president that God ever created." Trump's voice boomed from the speakers. "We're going to bring back manufacturing. We're going to protect American workers. We're going to make sure you get paid what you deserve. Believe me, nobody cares about workers more than Donald Trump." The crowd in the video roared with approval. The clip ended. Crockett turned to face the town hall audience. That was a promise. Now let's look at the reality. Click. A different image appeared. A graph showing manufacturing job losses during Trump's presidency, even before co-manufacturing jobs you promised millions in reality, from 2016 to 2019 before co. So we can't blame the pandemic. Manufacturing jobs grew by less than 0.5%. That's essentially flat. Some areas actually lost manufacturing jobs. Click another graph. The much-discussed trade war with China. American manufacturers paid the price. Farm bankruptcies increased by 40%. Small manufacturers struggled with tariff costs. Large corporations moved production overseas. Anyway, she turned to Trump. But here's what did grow during your presidency. Corporate profits, stock buybacks, executive compensation. Click. A new slide appeared showing corporate tax cuts and CEO compensation increases. Your 2017 tax cut gave corporations their lowest tax rate in decades. You promised they'd invest in workers, they'd raise wages, they'd create jobs. She paused. They gave CEOs bonuses and bought back their own stock. The average worker saw wage increases that barely kept pace with inflation. Meanwhile, CEOs saw compensation increase by an average of 23%. Trump shifted in his seat. The economy was the best it's ever been. For who? Crockett's voice cut through. For wealthy shareholders, yes. For CEOs, absolutely. For the average worker. She clicked again. Real wage growth for the bottom 50% of earners was essentially flat when adjusted for cost of living increases. She walked closer to where Trump sat. You told Denise to work harder, to get a better job, to stop whining. But here's what you didn't tell her. You gave tax cuts to the wealthy that exploded the deficit by $1.9 trillion. 83% of those cuts went to the top 1%. The average working family got about $50 a year. Click. The math appeared on screen. Stark and simple. Ahad's top 1% average tax, cut of $51,000, stir bottom 50% average tax, cut of 50 ratio 1,020 to you, gave millionaires 1,000 times more than you gave working people. Then you told them to stop asking for handouts. She turned to the audience. How many of you got a tax cut that actually helped? That actually changed your life? A few hands went up. Maybe 5 out of 200 people. How many of you are still struggling to pay bills? Still working multiple jobs? Still worried about healthcare costs, retirement, your kids' future? Nearly every hand went up. Crockett turned back to Trump. See that? That's reality. Not your rally speeches, not your TV ads. Reality. Trump stood up, his face red. This is totally unfair. You're cherry-picking numbers, taking things out of context. I'm reading from a Congressional Budget Office analysis of your tax cuts, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, from your own Department of Commerce data. Her voice remained level. These are my numbers. They're the government's numbers. Your government's numbers. She clicked again. A quote appeared on screen. I love the poorly educated. Donald Trump, February 2016. The room stirred. Trump's face darkened. That was a joke. Was it? Crockett tilted her head. Because from where I'm standing, your entire economic policy looks like it was designed for the poorly educated. For people you thought wouldn't check the numbers, wouldn't compare the promises to the reality, wouldn't notice that you gave everything to the wealthy and scraps to everyone else. She walked back to her binders. You call them whiners. You said they want handouts. But let's talk about who's really gotten handouts from the government. Click. A new slide appeared. Trump Organization tax breaks, subsidies, and bailouts. Your properties have received over $885 million in tax breaks and subsidies over the years. Your casinos in Atlantic City bailed out by banks, which then failed, costing taxpayers millions. Your businesses have declared bankruptcy 6 times. 6 times you walked away from debt while contractors, workers, and investors got nothing. She let that hang in the air. So, when you talk about handouts and people who want something for nothing, let's be clear about who's really been feeding at the public trough. Crockett paused, let the tension build. But you know what? Numbers on a screen don't tell the full story, so I brought someone who can. She looked toward the side door. I'd like you to meet Frank Martinez. An older man walked out, 58, maybe with weathered hands and a tired face. He wore a clean button-down shirt and slacks, but everything about him spoke of hard work and harder times. He walked to the microphone Denise had used, and the room fell silent. My name is Frank Martinez, he said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. I'm a third-generation electrician. My grandfather started our family business in 1952. My father took it over in 1978. I took it over in 2002. He paused, his jaw working. I say took it over in past tense because the business is gone now. It doesn't exist anymore. He looked at Trump. Because of you. Trump started to speak, but Crockett held up a hand. He's not done. Frank continued. In 2007, my company got a contract to do electrical work at a Trump property, Trump Tower renovation. It was the biggest contract we'd ever gotten. $2.1 million for the electrical systems. Complete rewiring new panels, the works. He pulled some papers from his pocket, unfolded them with shaking hands. We did the work. All of it. On time, on budget, up to code. Perfect inspection records. I have them here. We did everything right. His voice hardened. You paid us $600,000 out of $2.1 million. You said the work wasn't up to your standards. You said we'd been too slow. You said if we didn't like it, we could sue. He looked at the papers in his hands. So, we sued and you countersued, claimed we damaged property, claimed the work was defective. None of it was true. The city inspection records prove it. But you had lawyers, expensive lawyers, teams of them, and you dragged it out for 4 years. His voice cracked. The legal fees bankrupted us. We spent over $800,000 in legal fees fighting to get paid for work we'd actually done. Work that was perfect. Work that's still there. Still functioning because we did it right. He wiped his eyes. We lost the business. Lost everything. My house. My father's house. He'd put it up as collateral. 32 employees lost their jobs. 32 families. Some of them had worked for us for 20 years. He looked directly at Trump. And you went on TV. I saw you and you bragged about it. You said, that's just good business. That's being smart. If contractors can't handle the pressure, they shouldn't bid on Trump projects. The room was absolutely silent. Even Trump supporters looked uncomfortable. My son was supposed to take over the business. 4th generation. He'd been working with us since he was 16, learning the trade, building his skills. That was his future. That was his inheritance. Frank's voice dropped to a whisper. Now he works at Home Depot, electrical department, making $16.50 an hour because the family business you destroyed was his inheritance. He looked at Crockett, then back at Trump. You told that woman to work harder, to get a better job, to stop whining. I worked my whole life. I did everything right. And you destroyed it because you could. Because you had lawyers and I didn't. Because you knew I couldn't fight back. He stepped away from the microphone, but before he walked off stage, He said one more thing. I'm not the only one. There are hundreds of us. Contractors you stiffed. Workers you cheated. Small businesses you destroyed. You know what we call you? He didn't wait for an answer. A thief in an expensive suit. He walked back to his seat in the audience. The silence was deafening. Trump's face was purple. That's a complete lie. I've never to work was defective. He's obviously being paid by the Democrats to hear are the city inspection records. Crockett held up a thick folder. Perfect scores on every inspection. I also have the court records. The countersuit you filed dismissed with prejudice. The judge said it was frivolous and filed in bad faith. She placed the folder on the table in front of Trump. Frank's not lying. You are. Trump's hands were shaking with rage. This is you can't, just I can. And I have 3 more witnesses. So sit down, Mr. Trump. We're just getting started. Tervis, round 3. The woman who lost her mother. Before Trump could respond, Crockett continued. Let's talk about your response to COVID-19, because I think it's important that the you people who lost family members get to speak, too. She nodded to the door again. This is Jennifer Walsh, a woman in her early 40s, blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail, walked to the microphone. She wore a nurse's uniform. She'd come straight from work. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying recently. Or maybe she cried a lot these days. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I'm a registered nurse at Penn Highlands Hospital. I've been a nurse for 18 years. Her voice was steady, but barely. My mother, Catherine Walsh, died on March 28, 2020. She was 72 years old. She was in a nursing home. She had Alzheimer's early stage, but needed supervision. The nursing home was a good place. Clean, good staff. We'd researched carefully. She looked at Trump. She died of COVID-19. The room seemed to hold its breath. In early March 20th on 20, you were on TV every day. You said CO was under control. You said it was like the flu. You said it would disappear like a miracle. You said we had 15 cases, and soon it would be 0. She pulled out her phone, scrolled, started reading. March 9th, 2020. You said it will go away. Just stay calm. March 10th. We're doing a great job. March 17th. I've always known this is a pandemic. I felt it was a pandemic long, before it was called a pandemic. She looked up. That last one was a lie. You've spent weeks saying the opposite. But my mother believed you. She watched Fox News every night. She loved you. She had a Trump 2020 sign in her room at the nursing home. Her voice broke. The nursing home didn't get guidance, didn't get PPE, didn't get testing, because you said it was under control. You said it was no big deal. By the time we realized how serious it was too late. She wiped her eyes. She got sick on March 22nd. Fever, cough. They couldn't get her tested. There were no tests. By March 25th, she couldn't breathe. They took her to the hospital. I couldn't go with her. No visitors allowed. Jennifer's whole body was shaking now. She died alone in a hospital room, drowning in her own lungs, scared, confused. She had Alzheimer's. She didn't understand why no one could visit her. She died alone, terrified, not understanding why her family had abandoned her. She looked directly at Trump, tears streaming down her face, and you said, "It is what it is." When we hit 150,000 deaths, a reporter asked you about it, and you said, "It is what it is." Like those were just numbers, like they weren't people, like my mother wasn't a person. The camera caught Trump's face. For a moment, just a moment, something flickered there. Then it was gone, replaced by defensiveness. I'm very sorry for your loss, but the virus came from China. You had 2 months' warning. Jennifer's voice rose. The intelligence agencies warned you in January. In February, you did nothing. You said it was a hoax. You said it would disappear. You held rallies. You shook hands. You mocked people for wearing masks. She pulled out a piece of paper, held it up. This is from your rally on March 2nd, 2020, exactly 3 weeks before my mother died. You said the Democrats are politicizing the coronavirus. This is their new hoax. You called it a hoax while people were dying. Crockett stepped forward. Let me add some context. The United States had 4% of the world's population, but 20% of the COVID deaths. Over 400,000 Americans died during your presidency, more than all the Americans who died in World War II. She pulled up a slide showing comparative death rates. Countries that took it seriously, that followed science, that didn't politicize masks and social distancing, they had death rates 5, 10, 20 times lower than ours per capita. Your response wasn't just bad, it was catastrophic. Jennifer was still at the microphone staring at Trump. My mother believed you. She trusted you. And she died because of that trust. Because you lied. Because you cared more about the stock market than about people's lives. Trump stood up. That's not fair. No one knew. The science was uncertain. We did the best we could. You held a super spreader event at the White House. Crockett's voice cut through in September 2020 for your Supreme Court nominee. Over 150 people got CO from that event. Multiple people were hospitalized, all while you had already gotten top-level medical care that regular Americans couldn't access. She turned to Jennifer. Did your mother get monoclonal antibodies? Did she get airlifted to Walter Reed Hospital with a team of doctors? Did she get experimental treatments? Jennifer shook her head, crying. No, she died alone in a hallway because the hospital was overwhelmed. She got oxygen and prayers. That's it. Crockett looked at Trump. You got the best medical care in the world on the taxpayers' dime, while Jennifer's mother died in a hallway, and you called it what it is. Jennifer walked back to her seat, shoulders shaking with sobs. A woman next to her, maybe a friend, maybe a stranger, put an arm around her. The room was silent except for Jennifer's crying. Trump tried to speak. The pandemic was we had to. No one could have. You told people to inject bleach. Crockett's voice was flat. You suggested UV light inside the body. You promoted hydroxychloroquine despite no evidence. You mocked masks. You turned basic public health into a political statement. And 400,000 Americans died. She paused. Jennifer's mother was one of them. Was her life what it is? Trump had no answer. Crockett didn't wait for him to respond. Let's talk about veterans, because you love to wrap yourself in the flag. You love to talk about how much you love the military. So, I brought someone who can speak to that. A man walked out. Early 50s, black, lean and weathered. He wore jeans and a clean shirt. But something about his posture, military straight, gave him away. He carried himself like a soldier, even though he'd been out for years. Marcus Johnson. He said into the microphone. Staff Sergeant, United States Army, retired. I served 2 tours in Iraq, 2005 and 2006. His voice was level, controlled. I was in Fallujah Vehicle Patrol. November 2006, IED high explosive. Killed 2 of my men. I survived, but he tapped his head. Traumatic brain injury, PTSD, chronic pain, the usual. He pulled out a worn folder. When I got home, I applied for VA disability. I had all to see the documentation, medical records, incident reports, witness statements. My application should have been straightforward. His jaw clenched. The Trump administration changed the rules for disability applications, made them stricter, made it harder to qualify. My application was denied, said my injuries weren't severe enough. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I have headaches every day. Migraines that make me vomit. I can't hold down a full-time job because some days I can't get out of bed. I have nightmares. I wake up screaming. I scare my daughter so badly she started sleeping at her friend's house. He looked at Trump. But I wasn't disabled enough for you. Trump started to interrupt, but Marcus talked over him. I appealed. Of course, I appealed. The appeal process took 3 years. 3 years. During that time, I lost my job, couldn't work enough hours. They let me go, lost my apartment, lost my car. His voice dropped. I was homeless for 18 months, living in my car. When they repossessed my car, I lived on the street, a United States Army veteran, a staff sergeant who served his country, homeless. The room was absolutely silent. It's hot in Pennsylvania in the summer. It's cold in the winter. I slept in a Walmart parking lot when I could. I showered at a church that had an outreach program. I ate at soup kitchens. I stood in line for food stamps. He pulled out a photo, held it up. This is me in August 2019 sleeping on a bench at the bus station. The photo showed a man who looked nothing like the person standing at the microphone. Thinner, filthy, with the hollowy look of someone who'd lost everything. That's what I looked like after a year of being homeless. Because your administration decided I wasn't disabled enough. Marcus looked directly at Trump. You said you loved the military more than anyone. You said you'd take care of veterans. You said no veteran would ever be left behind. His voice hardened. I was left behind. I was left in a Walmart parking lot wondering if I'd freeze to death. I have a Bronze Star. I served my country, and I was homeless while you were golfing at Mar-a-Lago. Trump's face was red. The VA, we gave them record funding. After Congress restored the cuts you proposed, Marcus' voice rose. Your TW20 budget tried to cut VA health care by $4.5 billion. You tried to make it harder for veterans to get care. The only reason it didn't happen is Congress said no. Crockett stepped in. Let's be specific. The Trump administration proposed cutting VA health care by $4.5 billion, stricter eligibility requirements for disability, reducing funding for homeless veteran programs, eliminating automatic approval for certain service-connected conditions. All of this while giving tax cuts to billionaires. Marcus was still at the microphone, his hands gripping it so hard his knuckles were white. You want to know how I survived those 18 months? Not you, not your VA. Other veterans. A veterans organization found me. They got me into a shelter. They helped me navigate the appeal process. They got me a lawyer who worked for free. Other veterans, not you, saved my life. He pulled out a piece of paper. This is my approval letter. 3 years after my initial application, they gave me full disability, acknowledged all my conditions, said I should have been approved the first time. 3 years, 18-month homeless, because your administration wanted to cut costs. He looked at Trump with pure contempt. You said I was disabled enough. 3 years too late after I'd lost everything. Marcus walked back to his seat. As he passed Trump's table, he paused. I defended this country. I bled for it. 2 of my men died next to me. And you let me sleep on the streets. You're no patriot. You're just a con man in a flag pin. He kept walking. Trump was sputtering. That's not the VA is complex. We were trying to eliminate fraud. Fraud is less than 1% of VA disability claims. Crockett's voice was sharp. You weren't eliminating fraud. You were denying benefits to save money, to pay for your tax cuts. She let that sink in. Marcus is one of thousands of veterans who were denied or delayed benefits under your administration. Thousands of men and women who served their country, who came home broken, who needed help, and you told them they weren't disabled enough. Crockett took a breath. One more witness, because I want to make sure we cover every aspect of your contempt for working people. A woman in her mid-50s walked out, Asianamian gray, streaking her hair, wearing slacks and a modest blouse. She carried herself with quiet dignity, but her eyes were tired. So tired. My name is Linda Chun, she said. I'm 56 years old. I worked at Delphi Automotive Manufacturing Plant in Warren, Ohio for 28 years. I started when I was 28 years old, straight out of community college. Her voice was clear, practiced, like she'd told the story before, and knew she'd have to tell it again. I worked on a line, made parts for automobiles. Good, honest work, union job, good benefits, good pension. I raised my daughter on that job, bought a house, saved for retirement. I did everything right. She looked at Trump. You came to Warren in 2017. You held a rally. You said you'd bring manufacturing back to Ohio. You said companies wouldn't leave anymore. You said, don't sell your house. That's what you said. Don't sell your house. Those jobs are coming back. She pulled out a newspaper clipping yellow with age. This is the Warren Tribune, July 2017. Your quote, don't move. Don't sell your house. We're going to fill those factories. I kept this. I believed you. I didn't sell my house. Her voice hardened. In December 2017, you signed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, gave corporations the biggest tax cut in decades, lower the corporate tax rate from 35% to 21%. You said corporations would use that money to invest in America, to invest in workers, to create jobs.